just talking about how you guys have been extra cautious during the pandemic. An outbreak can move a team from a top seed to a 6th, 7th seed, something like that. And I just wondered, as you get to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th city on a trip, does that mental toll, does that accumulate? Does that get more difficult? How do you kind of keep the team on focus there throughout this unique situation?
Because there's still work to be done. I mean, we still, there's games we play, be work to be done. We got to continue to get better. And you can't really, get your mind into the grasp of how many days you've been on the road or whatever the case may be. Every team does it. Every team hits a long road trip. And as professionals, we got to keep our minds fresh, keep our bodies fresh as much as we can to go out there and put together a complete 48-minute game, or as close to 48 minutes. So obviously we haven't done it the last couple of games, and we just got to be better on Saturday.
Just basketball-wise, did you notice anything about that second half, the biggest thing that stood out?
I think Detroit played extremely well tonight, and then we didn't play well. We didn't play well at all. Like our legs got to us a little bit on the second night with back-to-back. That was a result of it.
Dan?
Hey, LeBron. You mentioned the legs. I mean, you got off to such a hot start in this game. Is that kind of what you think turned for you tonight?
No, I don't think so. I think early on I got it going. And then I still, at the end of the day, still got to get my teammates involved. Even with my scoring early, we didn't have many, assists and things of that nature. So I want to try to implement my guys, get my guys involved in the game. And I definitely missed some shots that I know I'm accustomed to making, but it had nothing to do with my legs.
Hey, Frank has talked a couple times about the depth of his team and how tricky it is to kind of find minutes for everybody who deserves them, and how it can kind of force some maybe non-conventional lineups. How much do you feel that? How much do you feel that you personally are still adjusting to some of the different groups out there, and where would you kind of like to be soon in that development?
I'm definitely, and we're definitely all adjusting to playing with different lineups, and logging minutes with lineups that, one game you might not log with, or could be a few games in a row. So, it's kind of learning on the fly, and I think we're all learning on the fly because of the lack of practice time. With this season, it's very difficult to kind of, get those practice minutes on the floor and know what works and what does not work. Just very strange with that. A lot of our games are also just like, big practices for us too. We have to learn on the fly, and coach is still learning different lineups and seeing what combinations work, what combinations don't work. And myself, I'm out there playing with certain lineups I don't play with, certain lineups I do play with. So I log a lot of minutes with, guys that, may not have logged with, in a couple games. But like I said, it's all a learning experience, and all of us trying to figure it out.
Dave?
Ron, how do you get comfortable and stay patient with that challenge or that circumstance of needing the games to be the practices because the reality of the schedule doesn't allow for actual practices?
I'll let you know.
Dan, I think you have a follow-up.
Yeah, LeBron, you guys have Boston on Saturday, and that's kind of one of those rivalries in sports that transcends even the country. I guess, what's it like to be a part of something so big like Lakers Celtics?
It's pretty cool. Just knowing the history, Lakers Celtics across, throughout the course of, this league, and what it means to this league, the history of this league. And just seeing some of the biggest games, some of the biggest rivalries, some of the best players that ever played this game, to be a part of this rivalry was a pretty cool thing, just learning the history. It's not like I didn't personally grow up watching them. Obviously I was, a little bit too young in the 80s, and then they had, rekindled a little bit in the late 2000s when, Kobe and them guys were going against KG and those guys. But, it's pretty cool. And right now it's different. Without the Boston fans and without the Laker faithful, it's not the same. It won't feel the same on Saturday. It's going to feel great to play another game and play against a very good team, but it won't have that rivalry feel. Just, the fans are so much a part of that rivalry. If you could just imagine, and just go back and watch those games, how key the fans were in all the battles over the course of the years.
All right, we'll wrap with Rachel.
LeBron, when is it in the cycle of games and off days and stuff and a road trip that you feel the most tired? Because we talked a lot about how short the off season was, how much energy it was going to take, and you get to the beginning of the season and there's kind of a burst of we're starting, but you're on a long road trip like this. When is it that you feel it? Is it right after games? Is it on the off days?
I don't get tired. I don't feel tired. I get my sleep, I get my rest. But I have a lot of energy. I don't get tired, and I don't even. My mindset never gets to a point where it's like, okay, this is a long road trip. I'm exhausted. Or I'm tired. I don't even think about that. When we have our games, I'm ready to go. When we're not playing, I have an opportunity to rest and get my body back right, get my mind refreshed. But I don't get tired.
What are you doing on this road trip since you can't go out to dinner and maybe hang with guys the way you normally would? What are you doing to keep yourself occupied?
Watching a couple shows on Netflix and on Showtime, and drinking some wine. It's perfect.
Thank you.
Inside the numbers presented by Lexus, the Lakers losing back-to-back games, 107-92. They struggle in the fourth quarter. The Pistons outshoot them 14-36 from three. Bench 32-27, but it did not matter. Points off turnovers, the big one, 16-5. Earlier today, our Laker insider Mike Bresnan caught up with the Lakers general manager, Rob Pelinka, to get his thoughts.
The good news for the Lakers, a lot of depth on this team. And how important is that to have not just a quality starting five, but a strong, 1 through 15 team, more or less?
Yeah, Mike, again, that was something that was really intentional as the front office was sort of, coming up with our strategy for this team. Having come out of the bubble experience where, guys had to come and go a little bit and teams had quarantine issues. We knew that this year, with kind of the soft bubble that we're in, where teams are traveling around, that we wanted to have a deep team. And I think on a night, if we're missing a couple good players, we'll still be amazingly competitive, because I think Frank Vogel and others at the beginning felt like this was one of the deeper teams in recent history, and that was intentional for sure.
Rob, if I know you like I do, you're always looking for ways to make yourself better, your people around you better, the players better. The trade deadline, still a couple months away, and of course the veterans buyout session after that typically. Do you see the team being active? Obviously the Lakers off to a great start, but there's always ways to tinker and maybe even improve, isn't there?
One of the things you're always doing in the front office is you're running scenarios just to be prepared. I've said at the beginning of the season, sometimes it feels like a grand chess game, and you want to study the moves and study what other teams are doing. And so we're always doing that, but at the same time, you don't want to tinker or change something that's working extraordinarily well. And so we'll be mindful of that too. We do have one open roster spot right now that at some point in the season will probably get use. We wanted to use the first, third to really see where the holes are or the needs are. But that's definitely a tool at some point that'll come into play. And, then you were talking about the trade deadline too. You never know what may come your way. And so we're preparing in advance for that, just to make sure we're doing all we can to defend the title.
All right, Brez, your conversation with Rob Pelinka talking about the new additions.
Yeah, he's obviously very happy about what they've done. I mean, when you had a guy like Schroeder and Montrez, that's going to make your team better. Marc Gasol, he's not going to score 20 points and get 10 rebounds every night like he used to in Memphis. But what he does on the court with his poise, you can tell Rob Pelinka really appreciates the new guys. And why not? I mean, this team has been really playing at a high level tonight, an obvious exception. I wonder, though, and you heard him talk a little bit about the near future, trade deadline, about 2 months away. Then, of course, all the vets buyouts after that. He's not going to reveal his cards. Not even he knows what moves he's going to make. But I wonder if the Lakers maybe go after another shot-blocking big man. You mentioned the stat earlier.
Yep.
They really had only one block shot till late in the game when it was irrelevant. I feel like maybe one more guy, one more big man down low. They still have that one open spot on the roster.
Yeah, I think there's the one critique, at least from people, about the roster or a need for this Laker team, even though they were number one in defensive efficiency and they had the best record in the league up until a couple nights ago, is the fact that they lost a little bit of length, and do they need a shot blocker, and can they get one later down the road?
Well, it would be nice. You know, shot blocking is a big part of their offense, you know, to be able to block a shot, keep it in play, get going on the fast break, you know, it kind of altering shots. There were a lot of times last season when players would drive into the paint, they wouldn't even take the shot. They would know that they were shot blockers there. So it would be something, you know, if they could find somebody that could come in and be consistent there, it can only help them. But the other player that I hope they can find, you know, a consistent offense for is Wes Matthews, because he can shoot. Remember the one game he had the 6 threes? They haven't found that rhythm for him yet. He sets picks and tries to step back quick. It's not quite developing yet. I'd like to see him get a little bit more consistent. I know he can do it. He's playing really hard, but he's a specialist at shooting. That can help as well.
Well, we want to talk about previews to maybe NBA Final. If we look at last night's game, we definitely need another big because AD can handle him, but he can't do it for 48 minutes. I'm talking about Joel Embiid. And we saw Marc Gasol just too slow to guard him. So they need another big. And Trez is too short. So if you want to have a preview to a finals, that was a perfect preview to say we need another big, and they need to find something.
We saw it in Drummond too. When Drummond
Would someone be able to argue that and say, Rob, but last year in the playoffs they rarely used their bigs?
Last year in the playoffs, they rarely had a big they went up against. You know, the only one they had was in Denver, and he's not.
If you're playing
really,
Philly, it's a different story.
He's not truly a big. You think about it. Tell me one other big they played against in the playoffs.
Actually, Dwight was effective against Jokic.
Well, whether you use them or not, you need them for when you have to use them against
And by the way,
men,
great in the regular season.
If we didn't have Dwight last year, who didn't play a lot of minutes, if we didn't have Dwight to go up against Jokic, that would have been a problem.
He helped win that series. There's no doubt. And Frank Vogel, some nice moves. He put Markieff Morris in there in a couple of the playoff games to kind of mess with the other team. I think that was the Houston series. They were coming out with Robert Covington as their center. He's all of, 6'7". So, I mean, you're right, Rob, when you say not a lot of brute force needed in the playoffs last season. That could change, especially if the Lakers get to the finals this season.
Yeah, Rob and the staff have done an incredible job putting together this roster. And like you said, they're going to keep it close to the vest. Maybe there's a move down the road. We shall see, but this team, pretty darn good. It's hard to go out and get better.
It's not time to panic yet, but if the one thing that's obvious is the shot block.
It's just something to make you go,
Maybe just a little.
Because other teams are aware of it. They're aware of it. They're going to the cup. They're not afraid. Detroit tonight, they had no worries about, a shot blocker being there. So
who are some of the names out there?
Something to think about.
Who are some of the names out there?
Well, our old friend JaVale McGee. He's now on a team with tons of centers in Cleveland. You got Drummond, who's actually going to be a free agent. People expect him to be dealt. He has a giant price tag. They just traded for Jared Allen. I don't see him moving, but JaVale McGee might be a guy that gets a buyout. I'm not sure if he's going to get traded. He'd be obviously a good fit for this team. We know what he can do.
All right, guys, good stuff. More to 107-92. The Lakers dropped to 14-6. Listen, it's their first back-to-back loss this season. Game 5 of a 7-game road trip. The Pistons got their 5th win of the year. Blake Griffin, 23. Wayne Ellington, 20. LeBron, 22. Kuz started instead of AD. He got 22. And THT with some valuable minutes. How about 3 for 3 from 3 on 13 points? Let's head back to the Motor City. Lakers head coach Frank Vogel speaking with Mike and the media via Zoom.
Hey, Frank, what did you see most of all in that second half? It was, I think, 34 points and just seemed like you ran out of gas. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I don't know if we ran out of gas. I mean, we just didn't have a great rhythm that second half in any way. We'll go back and look at the tape and see where we went wrong. We didn't have as much of a defensive disposition, and that forced us to not get out in the open court, and playing without Anthony. We're just looking to find a rhythm with combinations that are not used to being out there, and we just didn't find it. We've been pretty good on the road, but tonight was definitely not our night.
Are there certain things that you're looking for aside from LeBron initiating on offense that either didn't come tonight and that you think still need to come along, especially if AD's out?
No, for sure. We have plenty of firepower to win this basketball game tonight. You know, I got to do a better job putting guys in the right spots to be successful and use our depth. You know, but we just didn't get going in that second half.
Bill?
Hey, Frank, you know, you go back 24 hours and you guys had this, you know, great spirited fourth quarter in a close game where you were able to really summon something late. How do you account for the same team 24 hours later, you know, not being able to kind of draw on the same thing?
That's the NBA. I mean, that happens. You know, we were different tonight than last night, obviously with you know, the guys we had in there. You know, but you know, one night's different than the next, and there's different energy in every game. I thought we started the game with good energy, but you know, down the stretch we just lost with it.
Dave?
Frank, you thought your team would be a little edgy, a little angry about what occurred in Philadelphia. How do you respond to this one? You set out to not lose two.
Yeah, when you have nights like this in a long season, you know, we'll be fine. We'll bounce back. You know, not happy. None of us are happy with how we played tonight, but we'll bounce back.
Dan?
Frank, you talked a lot about how you guys are going to get everybody's best shot a lot of times this season. Did you see that from Detroit? It seemed like they were really physically invested in the game, talking a lot and stuff like that. Did you feel like they were at a different intensity level maybe than you guys were?
You know, I thought our intensity, I don't think it was an intensity thing. I think it was more of an execution thing, you know, and then, like I said, the second half when the shot's not falling, you don't have a rhythm in your offense. You know, your focus wanes and, you know, you do credit Detroit. Detroit played a good basketball game. You know, but certainly this is a game we should win.
Last question, Kyle.
Frank, you guys had a pretty good record, you know, in games where AD didn't play or LeBron didn't play last year. I'm thinking of an OKC game where Kuz and Rondo kind of led you guys to a big win there. Do you feel like that part of your culture is still intact, or with the new group, do you feel like that will require just kind of building back, or do these things even carry over year to year?
I do. We have a team that can make up for you know, a couple guys being out, and you know, I think we'll be that way throughout the course of the year. But you know, tonight, like I said, you know, sometimes you just have some nights where you're off in a lot of ways, and that was us tonight.
Thank you, Frank.
All right, that is Frank Vogel. We now have our Laker insider Mike Bresnahan joining us. What do you got for us, Brez? What are your takeaways?
I know you guys talked a little bit about Kyle Kuzma, but he's always so much more different when he's in the game as a starter. So when you hear he's going to start, I believe I stood here about 3 hours ago and said, guys, I have an announcement. Kyle Kuzma is going to have a big game. It's not that unpredictable because for whatever reason, he is just better, in that starting lineup. Now, tonight, he came into the game not really doing too well in the scoring column the last 4 games, averaging only 4 points. Tonight, you see the numbers there. This is indicative of what you get from Kuz. Kind of a new thing for him, the rebounding thing. And to his credit, he had not been having a good run in the scoring column coming into this game, but he'd been rebounding. He'd been blocking shots. He had that big one on Jared Allen in Cleveland the other day. But tonight, he needed to ratchet up the scoring, and to his credit, he did. He was hitting threes, not afraid to take it to the rack. Pretty nice little footwork right there. James is a man of renowned footwork. You'd probably be pretty pleased with that.
I love it.
So Kuz, this is not his fault. You know, this is not his fault. I know Rob is about to say I'm on the Kuz bus, and definitely that's the case, but I thought he had a pretty good game tonight.
Brez, 4 shots last night, 17 shots tonight.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference.
It's a difference, and I'm not going to push for him to be a starter on this team. You know, it doesn't make sense. He obviously took the place for a pretty good player in AD. That's a pretty good starting 5. It's just, I don't know if it's his mindset. You know, Rob, I know you started plenty of games in your NBA career. Is it different coming off the bench versus, hey, I'm going to get the start. I want to show what I can do?
Well, the difference is a career high for me came when Clyde Drexler didn't play the game. So that means you get more shots. It's a big difference. You get a better.
So my notes were useful.
Yeah, you get a better rhythm. And that's what people understand. Because if you look at Kuz last year, Kuz had more plays ran for him. This year, not so much. So he's being more active, and that's why he's going to the boards, because he knows he doesn't have any plays. So how do you score? You get rebounds and you be active in that sense. So he's learning, but when he does get plays, he does get some buckets.
We were talking about this on one of our non-game night shows the other night. Like, are you happy with his maturity, just in how he's handled that, and like understanding what it takes to be on a winning team? And you had to do it so many times. It means less shots. It means a role change.
You know, the thing about it is you have to be so proud of this guy, because for a couple of years there, we was talking about him being the third wheel, the third man. He's going to have to go ahead and do all this scoring. And I think he put that pressure on himself to be that guy. But now, you know what? He has a championship. He's sitting back saying, hey, my role was to just play basketball, take what's given to me. And that's what you have to admire about him, because now he's not searching for shots. He's getting shots, quality shots, not quantity shots, but quality shots. He's moving, he's cutting, he's playing free. And to me, he's like he's enjoying the game, because his passes are nice. I mean, he's throwing some passes that look like magic. So I'm very impressed with him.
Yeah, it's so versatile, right, James? I mean, just not to interrupt, but he had the 6 offensive rebounds a couple games ago. And he doesn't have to score every night, but when he needs to, he does.
The one thing that I've noticed in Kuz is, regardless of what he's doing, like he had a minus 16 tonight. I didn't see that.
Wow, that's
I
surprising
did not see that at all, because his effort is extraordinary. You don't see him scoring all the time, but you always see him, getting through picks, fighting over picks, going to try to block shots, making that extra effort. His energy is consistent every night, regardless of what he's doing in the scoring column. So he's taking it to another level. Even though they lost the game, Kuz had a really good game tonight. He's asked to do a lot, come off the bench, play 4, rebound, and he's doing it. And so my hats is off to him, man. The way he's upped his ante a little bit.
Led the Lakers in rebounding and had a double.